it seems like we can apply the same logic here, is that male basketballers under 6 feet tall have a distinct disadvantage when they're playing basketball against people over 6 feet tall. And it's really not any surprise that the majority of people in the NBA, for example, are going to be 6 foot tall and well over in most cases. And so it seems like as a result, people who belong to the social group, male basketball players under 6 feet tall, will have a distinct natural disadvantage when it comes to their ability to succeed in professional basketball. And they might be really skillful, but they'll still never have a chance to win because of these natural disadvantages that apply to them. And so we might think then, does accepting this argument from fair play for the existence of separate categories require that we need to have a basketball league for men who are under 6 feet tall? And this seems like a pretty silly result if it does justify it. So this is a kind of reductio ad absurdum argument where we're suggesting that if we take this principle that seems plausible in one case and it leads to something ridiculous in another case, then it must be a bad principle. However, we have two responses here. So one response is a kind of practical response, which is, we can't have separate categories for every single group that's naturally disadvantaged. It's just not something that'd be practical. And so we need to think about what the justification would be for this particular social group, this particular sporting category existing. And it seems like, for male basketball players, they're going to have other opportunities to go and succeed in other sports. So maybe there's not a super big justification for having this. Another option here is a more kind of principled argument, which is that the requirement for separate categories is greater for more salient political groups. So the group of male basketball players under 6 foot is not a kind of salient political group. It's not something that people are kind of identify strongly with. It's not something that really affects much of their life outside of the sport. And so it's not something that is kind of political in the same sense that a group of women in sports is going to be. And so English points out that part of the justification for girls-only sporting competitions is redressing the past unfairness that girls have faced in sporting competitions. So it seems like a lot of the justification is going to come from this idea that there's certain facts about girls or women as a kind of group, as a class within the sporting context that justifies this right. So again, we're coming back to the idea of group rights. So finally, one thing to think about here is that, even if we are in favor of different sporting competition categories on the basis of alleviating disadvantage, why is it that we go for sex categories? So what is it about sex categories that makes it so these are an appropriate basis on which to divide people in terms of categories of advantage and disadvantage and to set up segregated groups?